Hi, I'm Tim, and welcome to Watch You Want. Thanks for logging on. Today, we're looking at one of the models from Panerai's decidedly historic collections. Is the Panerai Luminor 1950 Days PAM 372. This model combines a lot of the greatest aspects of Panerai's past and the present, with a timeless style that's certain to endure into the future. Now, 47 millimeters in stainless steel. This is the 1950 case. In the size and the shape, introduced in 2002 with the original model 12750. Let's check it out on the wrist because this watch is all about look and style. Classic in its profile, it's got tremendous tumble home for fitting underneath a cuff. That's always important for me because I like to wear a versatile watch that can pair with just about anything, so that's one of the first things I look for when I try a watch on. I also look for general fit on my wrist. Now, it's ergonomically comfortable. That's in Panerai's heritage because, after all, when you're wearing something as survival gear, you need to have it work in the most dire of physical conditions, and this watch certainly meets that criterion. 47 millimeters with relatively short tapered lugs on my 6 1/3 inch 16 centimeter wrist. It's very comfortable. Only you can decide if the large watch style works for you. I'm going to try to get that direct overhead shot, but it's certainly an elegant piece within the Panerai pantheon. The combination of the high polish case, bezel, and lugs really jumps. The watch has a great deal of elegance, and it's the juxtaposition of the dull, almost subdued tones. They're not dull so much as they're subdued tones of the dirty dial, the bronze of the Luminor Panerai script, the dirty dial ecru color of the indexes and the hour markers, the numerals and the indexes with a vintage patina look to hark back to the 1930s, the 40s, and the 50s. That's essentially what those watches look like when they survive today. It's a romantic look, but you still want the effectiveness of the lume. And with this dirty dial look, you get that romantic vintage look with effective torch-like nighttime illumination. And of course, you've got those rose gold hands. So you have that subdued dial tone, luxurious, evocative, legible in the great Panerai tradition, and then you have the high polish of the case. And it's not a conventional case, it's the 1950. Now, the 1950 did debut the 47 millimeter size, but I can't overemphasize that it's really about contours and compound curves. It's not about size, because today we've got the 1950s in smaller case sizes, but they still have that same profile. It's finer, it's less of a drum or a tuna can than the original 44 millimeter 93 Panerai Luminor design, and it's more elegant for it. So I can't overemphasize that it's elegant in lines and it's elegant in finish. A true luxury watch at arm's length, this is the image of historical Panerai. But the closer you get, the more you can see the details that set this apart as a true luxury timepiece. It starts with those rose gold hands, and it continues in the general fit, finish, and tolerances of that dial, which is iconic in its own right. Continuing on to the crown guard is a subtle piece here because although it's large, iconic, and unmistakable, it's entirely brushed. It's a little bit muted in contrast to the standout finish of the case and the bezel, and that's deliberate. The emphasis in the 372 is on the beating heart of the watch, that almost 1-to-1 aspect ratio cushion case of the Luminor. The crown guard's along for the ride as a complementary piece, but it's not the main event. The case and the bezel and the dial, that's the focal point. But now the crown guard, even in its own right, is refined compared to past Panerai references. Since 2007, that little roller bearing in the cam lobe, the so-called runner, makes the opening and closing action so much smoother. Less a battle between pieces of metal and more of a smooth, progressive operation. It's buttery, it's luxurious, it's almost like closing a high-quality car door. It's got that sort of mechanical, gratifying feel to it. Now on this watch, you do have that gloss theme continuing from the bezel to the case to the strap. And the strap, although it is calfskin in the great Panerai tradition dating back to the 30s, it's a gloss finish with a contrasting tight hand stitch, so there is no gap between the stitching, but the combination of that gloss finished brown calfskin with slightly faux patinaed thread, it's not a bright white contrast, it's a little bit ecru, just like the dial, just like the dirty dial indexes and numerals themselves. There is a little bit of a honey tone to this that's quite beautiful and again quite complementary, especially when juxtaposed with that third tone of the raw untreated leather sides of the strap itself. That's a great combination, and you get the full effect when you turn this watch at an angle. You really see that. Historic not just in its presentation, but also in its materials. I've already mentioned the thread and the calfskin strap, but this is also a plexiglass crystal. And at angles, as I've stated, you can see nuances in the coloration of the strap. You can also see nuances in the distortion of the numerals through the crystal. Now, a plexiglass has an entirely different refractive index than a sapphire, and you get that vintage bubble look when you glance at it at angles. Even at the edges, when looked at directly, perpendicular to the dial, you can begin to see how the light bends around the periphery. Again, a nice, gorgeous, luxurious, evocative touch, distinctive of the 372. This watch is the total package. In terms of modern Panerai, this two-hand, dirty dial, 47mm 1950 case just might be one of the definitive references in the current catalog. Now, since this watch debuted in 2011, it has been a favorite of Paneristi precisely because it does blend authenticity and historic homage with modern watchmaking standards and luxury watch fit and finish. The caliber 3000, which debuted in 2010, is a big beat type, a large balance wheel, extraordinarily large in fact, with a dual anchored balance bridge and a fixed free-sprung regulator. This is an incredibly robust movement. It's also evocative, once again, of that three-quarter bridge of vintage pocket watch movements as found in historic Italian Navy Panerai watches. So it looks the part of a vintage movement, but because of modern standards like the balance bridge, the free-sprung escapement, 3-day power reserve, fully jeweled, fully shock protected, this actually boasts durability that you will not find in a vintage reference, and it is gorgeous to look at. I can guarantee you, having seen the open casebacks of vintage Panerai Survivor watches, they're not nearly as interesting as this. This is something you're going to want to show to your friends, and because of that 47mm case, the sapphire really opens up the caliber 3000 to appreciate the anglage, the graining of the bridges themselves, the polishing of the screw heads, the perlage of the base plate. Gorgeous, also incredibly rugged. It's a looker, but it also plays rough. This watch, with 100 meters of water resistance, really can be your only watch. If you're Paneristi and you're looking for a watch that, on a rubber strap, perhaps, can go anywhere, is welcome in any occasion, is truly equally adept at the boardroom or the boardwalk, the pool, the bedroom, the restaurant, basically Park Avenue or the water park, this watch is good to go. Just change the strap. The look is versatile, the material, the fit and finish is up to luxury standards, but it's still got the heart and soul of a rough, tough sports watch. If you want a Panerai Luminor that can do it all, I highly encourage you to check out this Panerai Luminor 1953 Days PAM 372 on our website, Watch You Want.